I'm slightly taken aback by some of the stuff. Yeah, I've only been a manager for 2 minutes, but I have been in football for 16 years. 16 years? I had a pair of socks that were in football for more than 16 years. This one feels... By the way, I won't rule it out because it's Rangers and anything is possible. They have had a history of making strange decisions. This one would be up there with the strangest, most left field, hard to understand decisions of the lot. Well, okay, it's Rangers. It's up there with some bad decisions that have been made.
There's plenty of competition.
A 36-year-old guy with, really limited experience, especially of being a manager, to be confronted with what's going to be and no experience whatsoever of understanding what Glasgow's like, what the club is like, what the environment's like. I would be... listen, it may happen, and if it does, then you can all come back and have a laugh at us. But I would be staggered if this happened, and I would be even more incredulous if someone like that was to be able to come in and make a success of the kind of task that's facing Rangers this summer. So, but yeah, look, somebody's put a fiver on them at the bookies, so the odds come tumbling down, and that's why we're left to have this discussion. To me, it makes no sense at all.
You mentioned the bookies. There's the odds there. Sorry, go on, Scott.
I was just going to say it was you that put the fiver on, probably.
Give us a talking point for the top of the show.
Do you know, it wasn't. That's a good idea. I'll remember that the next time we've got a quiet day.
Bit of fiver with Scotty McDermott next week.
We've got plenty of comments coming in on this already. Let me throw a few at you. Hoopsaholic says the saga makes the conclave look like a thrill ride. Will the Union Ewoks send up a blue pyro when a manager is finally announced? John says the key with the next coach is how well they understand Scottish football, as well as having real managerial skills. Clement lacked the former, Barry lacks the latter. They'll need both. This one, Craig says, yet to hear a single name who would compete with Brendan Rodgers. And Grant says, I'd be worried about the same thing that Clement and Le Guen both failed with. The failure to grasp the magnitude of the expectations here.
It's a very important point. Listen, there are some jobs, there are some environments, and I think, Glasgow on either side of the divide comes into that category where, and for me, I was always concerned that Philippe Clement would struggle to adjust, and that was proven to be the case. That's quite an experienced guy. That's a guy that's won titles. He's been around football for a long time. He played in England. So he's a well-travelled, well-experienced manager, a good CV. I had a look right at the start and I thought, I'm just not sure that this movie's for you. It takes a certain breed to be able to understand and adapt to the demands, the strains, the pressures, the intensity of life in football in Glasgow. And, you can have all the best ideas from the coaching textbooks and you could have come through all the best classrooms. You've not got a clue until you're pitched into this place what it really entails. And that would be my fear for somebody of basically no experience. And a guy that's, has no idea about what this particular city feels like, what this particular rivalry feels like. And again, it's one of the comments there's totally correct. You're going in against one of the elite managers in British football. A guy that's just about to clean up 5 out of his first 6 trophies in his second stint, having taken 7 out of 7 in his first. I don't think that's a thing that you want to throw some guy that's got no feeling for it straight into. I mean, you're basically throwing him into a fire.
Jack, I totally agree with everything that you're saying, and you're right about Clement. And the worry there is that Clement, when you think back to the appointment of Clement, he was about probably the best that they could get. It seems in terms of winning trophies, experience. He's managed the Champions League, won titles. People were crying out for he's got to be a guy that knows about winning. He's got to be a winner. Clement ticked a lot of those boxes, and yet comes to Glasgow and just can't do it for a variety of reasons. No, doesn't get it. No, puts his foot in it at times with comments and decisions, and just didn't get it. So you're thinking, well, so where do they go now? Do you know what I mean? I mean, you're right. Rodgers is an elite manager. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I says to you, Daniel, the column I wrote when the Americans are trying to pick a coach. The coach they should be talking about is Brendan Rodgers, because that's who the new guy is going to need to live with. That's who the new guy is going to need to deal with. And that's not just on the pitch. That includes dealing with everything off the pitch. Media. He has to have the personality to cope with that and compete with Rodgers on that level. It is so difficult to go and get the right guy. So do you go and get Sean Dyche? No, Sean Dyche has managed in British football. He'll have managed against Rodgers. He'll know how big Rangers are, even though he's not been in Scottish football. No, he knows Rodgers. He knows guys like Malcolm Mackay, and he'll be aware of the environment up here. But then the slight against him would be, no, has he really won that much? No, he spent most of his career at the bottom of the league. Do you know what I mean? Fighting against relegation, whether it be Burnley or Everton. I know you get Burnley up to 7th in Europe, but it's a different kettle of fish up here. So I agree with everything Keith says, but I just think all of that makes it so difficult. You throw Rodgers into the mix, you throw the fact that it's a new regime, Rangers are chasing, the fans will want instant success. It is a massive, massive appointment, and as we touched on, certainly no one that you think would be suited to a 36-year-old German guy with limited experience.
Look, Scott, there's something that kind of holds firm on this. This is Glasgow. It should come with a health warning. It will make your head explode if you don't know what to expect. You will be frazzled in this environment, and we've seen it on a number of different occasions with a number of different personalities, and they all come here and they all sound confident enough and they all believe in themselves, but until they're pitched into the coalface, they've actually got no idea what it is they're confronting, and you can see it visibly shocking them. You know, they walk in, they have a swagger, they'll tell you how good they are, they'll tell you about their plans, and as it starts to unravel game by game, week by week, so do they. They unravel as people, and you can't have that as a leader, not at a club. And that's where Brendan Rodgers, he's calm, he's composed, he's measured, he's experienced. He's the guy that when Celtic were going through difficult periods, and they did go through a really difficult period in his first season back, and if you remember, he actually wobbled a little bit, and he didn't handle it that impressively. And that's a guy with this kind of vast sort of career experience behind him. And he wobbled a little bit. Even he wobbled a little bit in that first season. I think it was when Celtic dropped points at Motherwell. There was a period of time where Clement had come in and had actually started pretty well. Brendan Rodgers didn't cope particularly well, and that's a guy as cool, composed, calm, experienced as he is. So, you know, and also on top of that, a guy that was here second time around, a guy that knew the environment. You know, it wouldn't have come as a shock to him, and yet it's still, you could still feel it startled him a little bit.
And his experience at that point, if you
got
remember,
him through it.
His experience told him at that point something had to he had to change the narrative. He almost had to cause kind of ructions. No, something had to change, whether it was in his own dressing room, whether it was through the media. Remember, it was around about that time that separate media conferences with Brendan Rodgers was stopped. You remember he had a wee go at one of the female reporters at the time for quizzing him. He did wobble a wee bit, but I think his experience of being there and knowing the environment and the landscape, something had to change. And he said a couple of things that Philippe Clement bit on right away when he shouldn't have.